Oh,
Go. No.
somewhat related for my update. I just want to say I'm extremely disappointed we are not able to bring in the Aiden's Light um, training to our district in the fall. I was looking forward to that. I think our district needs that. Um, and it's disappointing that we are not taking advantage of that. That's directly related to the mental health.
Yeah. Why
I
aren't
think we could have found a way to make that work, and
Oh.
could have worked harder to do that.
It's set, it was, the only day that they had offered for us was the week of homecoming.
Okay.
And so the hindrance or the fear, maybe fear is the right word, the concern is that if we start homecoming week, because they had that Monday available for us, if we start homecoming week, will we have time to do give enough attention to the things that could trigger in people? Because it wasn't that long ago, from what I understand, that Crescent did have a suicide, and how would that impact students and what they're doing at homecoming and during homecoming week, etc. My understanding, Jacob, you can jump in if you want to, but that was really our concern. I did have a conversation with the group that does Aiden's Light with Jennifer, and she said they are coming back and that they'll continue and that it will not suppress getting the program to be done here. And she understood that, that's uplifting, and the woman who comes in gives a lot of hope too, but she could also understand why it could be a concern for them. So, but we're on the list. They've done it a couple of times, and she said we'll definitely be noticed the next time it comes through.
What is the time? I mean, what are the time constraint rationale? Like, is there a reason that we only got one date out of the whole school year?
They book her to come up for a week, and she comes up from Texas. The young lady who does the work. It's according to when I was talking, it's like $5,000 to bring her up. Period, plus travel expenses. And so they have to kind of figure out when they're going to do it, and when her schedule, she's booked out a considerable amount of time into the future. And it just so happened that our homecoming week was picked back in January. And so this was well before anyone knew what was going on. Mr. Feldman and Terry looked into changing homecoming week, but then the situation it created, and jump in if I'm missaying this because this was a little while ago, was that homecoming week to try and have all of our teams at home playing, so that all of the kids can perform here and we have home crowds. If we had picked any other week, that wouldn't have been the case for everyone. There would have been at least one team, possibly two, that would have been somewhere else. They also try and pick games that will do well, if that makes sense. And so that was the hindrance in it. And being that it is such an important program, and I absolutely agree with you, April, that it's needed and it's important here. But we also have to be able to plan out and make sure that the follow-up to that we're able to do. Having someone present on, do a suicide prevention lyceum, but then if teachers are focusing on other things during the rest of that homecoming week, that's not allowing enough time to really take care of the kids that might need it.
You got to be able to build in follow-up time for the kids that think they're okay, and then 3 days later they're not. Yeah. You want to be able to have.
Yeah, but what happens to those kids that are not feeling okay now? And that sort of speech or that sort of situation would have allowed them to get help.
Is there another thing we can bring in? Can we look? This one didn't work.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, there's lots. It'd be good to have somebody every single
We
year.
do.
It would be good to have
We do a lot of mental health screening currently. We don't typically have speakers.
No, I mean speakers. Yeah, is there another speaker? I mean, could you look Could
We
you
can
look
look.
into it, because
Yeah.
this was turned down to getting one for next year? And a date that you think is best suitable for the,
I just want to be able to give it the time it deserves.
I agree.
I
I agree
would
with
hate
you.
to do it on a Monday and say, okay, Tuesday we're starting. That wouldn't be appropriate to either one.
Right.
I don't know.
mental
So-
health is about balancing the highs and lows in life, and you can't have highs without the lows, and I understand all of the reasonings that you're giving, but it's really important, so let's get something.
Any opportunity is better than none.
I didn't hear that, Jeff, I'm sorry.
That any opportunity is better than none.
Yes. Sorry, I was writing something, I didn't hear you.
Okay, now we are on administrative report, high school.
I must have been excited when I wrote this, 'cause it's rather lengthy. But, you know, Lily said that things are fairly calm for students. That's not true at all. From an administrative piece. Right.
But now for something completely
Yeah.
different.
So, been doing a lot of kind of network building and trying to build up structures within this corner of the state, both for recruiting teachers, but then also to better support and train teachers. Had a very nice conversation with Dean Education from Winona State about how do we support those kind of first year, second year, third year teachers with help from post-secondary, in addition to the mentor-mentee, just due to the number of teachers that leave so early in their career. So trying to find ways and create systems and trying to create a much larger network to help support than just the district doing their own mentor-mentee type of stuff. So we're doing a lot of that stuff. Also trying to get legislators involved in our buildings. I had Representative Davids down and did a very nice tour. He kept commenting how he didn't know that this was a part of what schools do. That was a frequent comment that he made when we were going through, especially some of our SPED areas and our work experience program, and talking about how do we train kids for essentially life after, other than the college-bound track. So he greatly enjoyed that. He called and thanked me yesterday again for the tour. So, you know, that's nice. Talked with Senator Miller about possibly coming down as well and getting more people into the building just to experience and see what is it like, so that when they're having those discussions, whether it's in committee or on the floor, they have a little bit more of a background as far as they can draw. So that's kind of the goal there. Let's see, where else are we? Graduation, get ready for that. One thing, just to kind of make you aware, there is a small subset of 18-year-old seniors who have kind of decided to stop showing up. And at 18, truancy laws don't apply. So truancy, as far as that required attendance, is 7 to 17. So anything prior to age 7 or anything after the age of 17, there's no legal piece of you need to attend school.
So we're not telling our kindergartners that either.
Correct. Yeah. But, so trying to figure out, because this is some pretty extreme, you know, pieces that we're at. Like the maximum is 270 periods of unexcused absences.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So, I mean, we're talking extreme situations where these are kids that are showing up half a day, or that they're there 1 day a week. They are essentially showing up to take their tests in classes, and they're passing those, so they might be passing the classes, but they're just not there otherwise. So one thing that we're trying, and I don't know that anyone has a great answer, but there's been a lot of communications going back to March, is kind of when this pattern started to develop, of you need to be showing up, you need to be attending, you need to be meeting those expectations. Otherwise, some of those senior events you may not be able to participate in.
And walking in graduation is one of them?
Correct. Yeah. And that's been very clear. There's been multiple letters that have been sent home. There's been communication via phone with parents. There's been in-person sit-downs, multiple with the students who are in question.
Are any parents arguing it?
No, they're saying, I hope my kid does this. So do we.
To serve the after-school detentions, do they have to specially set that up?
We're able to do it any day. time we're able to do it varies a little bit by day to day. Like if they did show up and say, hey, can I do some time now? We might only have half an hour because I might be in meetings and our office staff is only there till 2:30.
Yeah, I'm not clear on that. So they're not coming to school, and then when they do come to school, we're making them serve detentions. Is that what that says?
For their unexcused absences.
So don't you think that's a reason to not come to school if they show up at school, and then now they also have to serve a detention? Like I wasn't connecting the dots on that.
Well, as a consequence for skipping their classes.
Right, but like bigger picture, if we just want to get them graduated, and they
They'll
show
graduate,
up at
they
school,
just won't walk.
They'll get a diploma, they just can't
They're
participate in
passing
the
all the
ceremony.
classes, so they get to graduate.
They just don't get a walk in the ceremony.
And are these kids an ALC? I mean,
well, I thought it's the 6
No.
that aren't. Maybe I'm not clear. I thought there's 6 that are at risk of not graduating. Or are these different 6?
No, these are the same 6, so they're very rarely showing up.
Right?
Some of them are still able to pass their classes as is. Others
And will graduate.
Mhm. Others are very much on that line of, well, they won't be.
Academically.
Correct.
So the detentions determine whether they walk or not.
If they still have active detentions when it comes to the time for the ceremony, then yes, they cannot participate.
I have just one question that do we think proactively next year that we maybe start giving the one detention earlier than 287 days missed?
We can try. What I did is I didn't start the detention counter until after I sat down and met in person. So the letter was sent home. I sat down with whoever it was in person and said, hey, any unexcused absences from today forward will trigger a detention.
And
So it
what does
wasn't
the
retroactive.
attendance policy state? Does it state there's discipline for
It doesn't tie a
any
specific
discipline?
consequence to
It
it.
doesn't
No.
tie a specific consequence.
Yep.
And so your procedure is the same for everyone? Is it written down somewhere and it's the same for everyone?
For the students who qualified for this, yes.
For unexcused absences?
Mhm.
Like, so is it after 5? Is it after 2? Is it after 3? I really like clear expectations, and I know that kids really strive with clear expectations, so I think if there's written somewhere in the handbook, if it doesn't state specifically in the policy, after 1, this happens, after 2, after 3, we are going to meet, after we meet,
Yep.
so they know the consequences going forward.
Mhm.
And is it the same for everyone?
That does not exist right now. No.
Can we make it exist?
We can.
I
They'll
think
have to
it would be proactive and really strengthen the attendance issues if there's consequences, and then eliminate this happening potentially.
I mean, there'll be a lot of resources that would have to be devoted. We would have to get someone to staff detentions on a routine basis, as opposed to just holding them in the office for half an hour or so after school.
So right now, that's what they would do, because I just asked if they had
Right.
set that up.
Right.
And you said that they could do it anytime, so
Yeah,
I was
they're
under the
just kind of
assumption that we
stopping it.
had that.
Yeah, we just have a brief period, or if I'm not in a meeting, then I can supervise later than that half hour.
Don't we have kids in lunch detention still?
Mm-hmm.
So could they do it then?
We could. I feel like the after school is kind of the next step up in severity from a lunch detention.
Are they already getting lunch detentions for unexcused absences?
They are for their tardies and other attendance concerns, yep. And that hasn't changed the pattern at all for students who are at this level.
So as a parent, would I see if my kid has an unserved detention on the website?
I am not sure.
Does my son have an unserved detention right now?
He does not.
Okay, thank
You'll
you.
see absences though.
Well, he's one of the 6.
You'll see
So-
absences, but that was my question too. I feel like when I mean, that was happening when I was in high school.
Mhm.
You had kids turning 18 and they're like, I'm making money.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'll show up and take my tests and walk the stage. I mean, that's going to be a forever problem. I don't personally want to micromanage how you're handling it, as long as it's following and aligning with our policy and you're working with your supervisor, Mindy, then I respect whatever needs to get done and it's a home issue, but
And we're trying this because this was back beginning of March when I started this, trying to get those kids because they
It's
were
hard.
in jeopardy of not passing classes.
Is there a trend?
So
I mean, you don't have to tell me, but is there a trend with them that there's something we could be doing differently to meet them where they're at? Or is there,
I don't know that there's a consistent trend other than all 6 are males. I mean, that's the only demographic item they have in common.
Well, 18-year-old males are known for their common sense
of course,
and thoughtful,
and
Yeah.
prayerful
Consideration.
interpretation of,
Yes.
fully developed frontal lobes?
yeah.
right,
So, you know.
fully developed.
So it's kind of a one-off, it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also don't think clearly writing down what the consequence is for an action is micromanaging. I think that's being clear, transparent, and consistent. And
Very important for children.
right, like I have 2 boys that are very, very different, and both of them need very clear, written, these are the expectations for different reasons.
And I
And
think
me as a
procedures should be
parent,
followed the
I
same for all kids.
Also, like to know what is the
Yeah.
rule. And when I'm mad and there is no rule, and I'm being told what the rule is, but there's no written rule, then I'm even more mad. So I think having it in writing, clear, is
Yeah. Putting basically this
like
in writing.
something we need to be better at just across the board.
So as a parent, I can say you got 269 days or periods, better not miss anymore, sort of thing, or reaffirm the school's rules.
So in the letter that went out to families, this doesn't, this is 6 kids out of the senior class. In the letter that went out to families, did you state in there what the systems were gonna be or what the consequences would be or?
I read it, I don't remember it.
You didn't get one.
I didn't?
No.
Colin's not one of the 6?
He is not.
Okay.
He's a,
It's no big deal. All right.
Eric's blood pressure.
Maybe there's 7?
No.
Wow. I'm knocking it out of the park.
Nice job, Dad.
Sorry.
Did we not have any students last year that fell into this? I feel like this is the first year
Oh,
we've
we
heard
did
of
have
it.
students, but we didn't trends. We had students who were actually 15-day
So
drops
funny.
before graduation
Oh,
because they didn't attend.
Mine, I got one too.
And we had a few others that
How
didn't
many
meet.
was it last year?
I'd have to go back and look to see who met this.
Okay.
benchmark
But this
last
isn't a
year.
new thing this year. This is just new because we're hearing about it.
we're just trying something different.
We're trying this new.
Addressing it
Yes.
this year, yeah.
Addressing it differently. I've
The
gotten
additive
absent.
behavior is not new.
I have historically gotten absence letters, and I felt like it was very clear. This is what you're allowed. This is what you've taken up. This is kind of your warning letter kind of thing. If you miss any more, this is what's going to happen. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
If you need assistance, and it also lists the resources for social worker, health office. I mean, I thought it was very helpful and appreciated to see that and have those resources.
So let's take that within that letter and put that transparently in a handbook, right? Because I wouldn't know that unless
You got a letter.
I got a
Yours
letter
is
and then it's too late, right?
I was also just thinking maybe we be proactive and don't let it get to that level before we do something.
Sometimes it's just incidental too. Like I know it was kind of incidental because they were excused, but thought they were unexcused, something weird. I hadn't wanted it. But yeah.
So I do have the policy pulled up for consequences of unexcused absences and tardies.
What you got?
Is this still part of the high school principal's report?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't say like anything about detention, subject to discipline. Well, maybe. Students with unexcused absences or tardies shall be subject to discipline in accordance with the student discipline policy. Additionally, the student's grades may be impacted by blah, blah, blah. So it does say that. Shall be subject to the discipline in accordance with the discipline policy. So, I don't know what that says, but I'll look later.
Brittany just pulled up this.
I read it like 3 times today.
OGT.
So I think the point of looking is that maybe it is documented, it's just in separate policies. Disciplinary action may include one or more of the following. And then it lists out we listed out the options. So detention before school, after school, during lunch periods, and or on Saturdays, we added. So excessive, unexcused tardies or absences is covered in policy. It points to the discipline policy. The discipline policy
Says that
allows for
they may
detention.
or may not use one of the following.
Case by case.
I think it really is discretionary. So, I feel like it's appropriate.
Alright. Keep going. Everyone.
Ready for me to begin? So, other things, just looking at staffing for next year, that is kind of a big piece right now. Trying to figure out, what staffing do we need, what's appropriate, what will the budget allow. We do have a decline in our high school of right about 20 students. I think we're projecting about 22 students due to the incoming freshman class being smaller than the outgoing senior class. So that drops our overall high school numbers. Fortunately, most of our departments have overloads this year, meaning we have teachers teaching essentially at 120%. So that decrease in enrollment just drops them back to 100% of their normal teaching job. So we're not cutting staff at the high school level. As far as hiring staff, the biggest thing is we have retirements in SPED in a difficult to fill area. We also have a maternity leave coming up at the start of the year. So we're looking at multiple new SPED teachers for the start of the school year next year. So that's just something to kind of keep on your radar. If you hear of SPED teachers who are looking for a job, or you have relatives who are SPED licensed, send them my way. So, and then for Spotlight, talking about Pays Lab. If you've never been to the high school and seen the Pays Lab, you really need to come and check it out. It is a very unique classroom, if you even want to call it a classroom. Pays is supervised by Chris Jurgensen, so she is in there 100% of the time. Students up to 5 at a time. What they do is they come in and they get essentially a box that has some directions in it, as well as whatever tools and things that are required for that job. There's multiple categories for jobs, ranging from kind of a sales to hospitality to manufacturing to all these different things. It accomplishes 2 big things. One, it teaches some job-based skills. And the second one is that it allows kids to explore a bunch of different careers. So they might not think that they're interested in manufacturing, and then as they're starting to build these little things, they figure out, actually, this is something I really enjoy. Maybe this is something I want to look more into. Or maybe I want to take some buildings and trades courses. This is typically offered to 10th graders who are in our special education program. Occasionally we will get some 9th graders or some juniors that are in there as well. But 10th is kind of the target, because our goal then is that's the gateway to our work experience program. So they start in 10th grade with the PAYS lab. Once they finish that PAYS lab, which for most students takes pretty close to a school year, then they transition into on-site work experience. So they work somewhere within our school district, whether that is with one of our custodians, whether that's in our food service program, whether that's as a teacher aide. It depends on kind of what their potential career path would be. So, for example, last year we had someone who was very interested in being an elementary teacher. So came over and was in the kindergarten classroom, and also did some things for Kids Company, trying to tailor it to kind of what they might want to do. And then senior year, they go off-site. But PAYS is kind of the start of that, and Chris does a fantastic job at getting kids ready at that point. And it's amazing to go in there and see, these students with all their different tasks. So if you ever want to come and check it out, I'm happy to show you.
And then when they go from PAYS Labs, is that when Troy Ellis then goes with them out? Or
Troy typically doesn't go out. He oversees a portion of our work program. We also have some support from HVED to help to oversee. But Darla Appen is the one who is our on-site job coach, job transport.
Anything further? Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Middle school, everyone have a chance to read? Sure. Did you want to speak to this at all, or?
He didn't share anything with me when he said he was going to be done. I said, if there's anything specific that you want to know. Josh did say that he would give him a call if he had any questions, so.
Okay, thank you. Elementary?
Last night was the first of 2 spring concerts. Excellent job by our students, and huge thanks to Barb Bjornstead for organizing it all. We had almost each and every staff member, teacher there to support their kids. It was a really great night. And the accompanist that we hired to help play the piano knows other programs and knows other kids, and just spoke really highly of how well behaved and how organized and how high quality the program was. So huge thank you to Barb Bjornstead for being so organized and doing a great job. Bringing Books to Life was also very successful a couple weeks ago, I guess now, and there was a garden lesson that was taught even today because it was a little bit rainy outside, but we're learning about nutrition and soil and healthy eating. Our natural playground does look like that when it's not muddy out there, and it's still featured on the La Crosse Area Waters website, so kind of neat to have our position out there for others. There's our school picture from Bringing Books to Life, and I was not dressed up as a bear, that's somebody else. And we're planning a bike rodeo coming up June. It was rescheduled from May 4th. It will now be June 1st. So the first day of getting out of school, we'll organize the parking lot, have law enforcement and kids and bikes and bike safety and helmets and safety checks. Fun event there. So huge thank you to the PTO.
Bike shop? Does the La Crescent Bike Shop come?
I think they have.
They are there, yes.
Yep, you bet.
Community ed, it'll be in the catalog and, yeah. So PD, bike shop, elementary, our nurse will be there. Did I miss anybody?
Kind of wellness meets bikes.
Oh, Houston County Public Health is joining us this week.
Yep.
What are the ages for that?
I think age, I don't know, kindergarten through middle school. kind of, it's
There's
not.
no restriction.
It's
Okay.
it's not designed to be competitive. It's designed to be kind of skills and awareness and safety.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
What else? We're continuing to work with our teacher teams in their PLCs on evaluating new curriculum resources. Next year there's going to be big training in how to teach reading, and we're looking and evaluating resources now in our PLCs. Some follow up on there about the bus discipline thing. So I've been doing some work on that. It's documented for your review, and I've connected with Chris Shelby about that because we want to make sure our drivers feel supported and our kids are well behaved.
Are there cameras on all the buses? That'd be a great question.
I believe there are cameras on most all of them now.
I mean, they're supposed to have
Last
Wi-Fi
year-
access. So.
Previously,
Last
there
year
were, when we had to do contact tracing, I would have to look at bus video and identify
Oh, yeah.
kids all the time.
Contact tracing.
Mhm.
Boy.
Yeah, that's
I
a
do
throwback.
not
Throwback
way
miss that.
Wednesday, yeah.
I do
There you
not
go.
miss
I
that.
think there's a section in the handbook, is it there on bus, that speaks to video.
Good.
Did it? I know, I read it somewhere, because I looked it up after.
On that topic, a parent actually called and turned their own student in and assigned their own student an assigned seat on the bus.
Good.
So we've got supportive parents out there, and that's really helpful. Yeah. A reverse referral.
Uh-huh.
Rare, but it's good.
Hey,
no idea.
we'll take it. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you, gentlemen. Community ed?
Not a lot to say, just running wild, trying to cover kids' company without a coordinator right now. Next month I will have somebody to bring you pending her upcoming college graduation. We'll excited to be promoting from within. But yeah, currently I'm doing all the summer planning as well as the day-to-day operations, and we are quite short-staffed currently. Summer looks a lot better, but I'll believe it when I see it. Summer program planning, we have not found some replacement instructors for some of our favorites, fishing camp, archery, etc. Found out we're not alone with not being able to find people to work. Both cities of La Crescent and Hoka are having to reduce their swimming lesson capacity because they don't have people to work either. So hoping to connect with some high school staff and ways to brainstorm how to encourage kids to take these kinds of jobs in the future. Because
Hope not doing any swimming lessons.
no, they're not doing any.
Yeah.
No, and the city of La Crescent has canceled evening ones and all of their Little Maids levels. So it's a big change. I also don't have anybody for Wednesday night parents hot swimming, and yeah, again, a lot of holes. And then due to just time constraints, we're just going to do a digital guide this year that'll be up by the end of this week once we get everything in. Our printed catalog that will also have district pages will go out in May as planned, and hopefully maybe we'll find somebody to do fishing camp and archery by then. Yeah, so we had a great daughter dance right here in this space. Had over 300 people, so we ended up being shorthanded for that too. So it's an exhausting time of year.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Find people for like the daughter dance. Like, what were you short in? I would have came. I guess is what I'm saying. I have two daughters. One was here. The other also would have came.
We unfortunately had published the date before we realized it was the play. It was Mamma Mia weekend. So some of our regular volunteers that normally would sign up to help were all in the play or attending the play. So that really hurt us. And we, both for the daughter dance and the superhero sun dance, we sent out a survey to all students, inviting them to attend and volunteer. And for our basketball, we did. And they could get their hours for their Lancer Stewardship Award, too. So, we had a committee that kind of is needing to be revised. So with more of community ed-led leadership rather than community-led leadership. We'll get it back on track. And I'll call you next year.
All right. Just for fun things.
Just for fun things.
Like little girls dressed as princesses.
I know,
Yes.
it's so cute.
That's
It
fun,
is.
right?
I know.
Yeah.
It's tons of fun.
It is adorable.
And if I could dress like a princess,
I was
even
gonna say, I
better.
think they look for princesses too.
Please.
I will dress like a princess.
Please.
I'd rather be a superhero.
I've got a guy with the costumes.
Yes.
I'll be a superhero
Yeah,
too.
I'm team superhero.
All with the cake.
Yes.
Our DJ's dressed up as superheroes for the superhero dance. That was fun.
Thank you.
Okay, building and grounds update was attached. If you didn't hear the first night, we got to use the lights at softball, and people got to sit on the bleachers. They sat there for 15 innings. The game went for 15 innings
Wow,
against
you
Cottage.
were
Awesome.
And the lights were on the whole time, and it was so cool. And our next fundraiser is to pay the light bill now. But yeah, it was, sadly we did lose, but it was an amazing game and so good. Yep, Kim Grattan hit one over the fence, and yeah, it was awesome. Okay, Mindy.
And just, very short report. I've been working with the team incredibly hard to get the principal hire identified. We had 5 wonderful interviews yesterday. It was an incredibly long day. We started interviewing at 11 o'clock. We had 3 kids that were doing tours along with Miss Mossman, and we had 3 kids that were involved in the interview itself. And they did a fabulous job. So 6 middle school kids involved all the way across. We've had wonderful candidates, and hopefully, like I said in the report, I'll be looking for a special meeting maybe at the beginning of May, so that we can approve the candidate. Brittany sat with me yesterday, and we tallied all the numbers, and so we have all of that done. And so it's just a matter of calling some references now and doing some things like that.
And we can't just approve it on the May regular meeting.
Well, the only reason that I'd like to do it sooner is so that the candidate knows that they're approved and set to go, so they can plan with their job and move forward. And then
So they
we
don't
also
apply
secure a
elsewhere.
candidate.
Right?
What's that?
So they don't apply elsewhere?
Right.
Yeah, recruiting's heavy right now. Being that we don't get to have, unless, are you gonna provide us with some information
Yep.
to make a
Yep.
determination? Okay. How is that recruiting?
No,
Interview them.
I'll provide you the information on the candidates that's being recommended. We had 3 teams. One was a parent, community, and student team that had 12 members that were invited. We had about 10 that showed up that came. The staff team had 8 members interviewing, and the admin team had 6 interviewing.
Anything else?
Nope, short and sweet report this time.
Thank you, Mindy.
Any questions or comments?
I have a question just back on Pat's, if you can answer it, with those damages and stuff, I know we talked about, is he getting that company to pay for that?
I've got to talk to Pat about it, but yes, they're gonna either knock price off or, and my understanding was, and that's why we need to go through, not only was it, I was talking, when April and I were talking, not only was it damage to the field, but they left a mess, and our people had to clean it up and work with the city, so it was Casey and Tyler, right?
That was the bleachers.
The bleachers.
And there was damage to the adjoining soccer field as well.
Mm-hmm. And my understanding, talking to Terry, is that they are supposed to be in this week to do repairs on it. So.
And baseball is using the hockey concession trailer at the baseball field.
Yeah. And baseball had a problem. I was there at their first game, and I was supposed to throw out the first pitch, but Terry told me the wrong time, so I showed up an hour late. So I couldn't do it. I thought it would be pretty funny. It was.
We did like the 5th inning pitch.
No, I didn't do any. It was probably good because, like I told them, I'd probably have to stand 10. I don't know if I can make it 10 seconds with baseball than throwing it. I mean, yeah, it was kind of ridiculous.
I enjoyed that.
But no, so looking at things there, they had a problem with the scoreboard. There's something on the scoreboard out there that some wires are not connected correctly or something, and Needles has had someone come out and look at it, but because scoreboards are so finicky, the person he had look at it didn't want to touch it yet, because there's supposed to be like 5 wires, and I guess there's 3, and they were crossed up, so whatever happened, it just wasn't working.
Was that the scoreboard that doesn't do double digits, or is it
No,
softball?
that's
softball.
Is it?
Yeah, they found out about
Yeah,
that
once we
too.
got to inning 10, like the county were in the, and they're like, they would go to 0, and then they'd go all the way through the numbers again and go to 0, and then we finally figured that, oh yeah, it's only single digits on the.
That's too funny. That's so weird.
So obviously we haven't had that 10 inning or more.
Well, they
game.
just got that scoreboard last year,
Oh,
so
okay.
no, they haven't had one that. But you know, now we know.
Yeah.
Okay, Education Minnesota.
All right, everyone. Well, once again, elementary school is taking this one home. So if you want to click on that picture, the newsletter is there. All right. Took a bit for me as well. It's okay. So getting us rolling, Discovery Pre-K. Teaching students to learn to be flexible. That is a lesson that any student in any of our buildings can learn from. But that's that old adage of being flexible like a palm tree instead of rigid like an oak. Work through the process, roll with the punches. We can be flexible. We can endure. You want to jump back?
Yeah, could you?
Do you mind? Thank you, Brandon.
I see that's a hockey mom on the top left.
You bet it is.
Cool, thank you.
All right, so Dr. Seuss books. The nice little added piece is if you look in the background, Pete's back there with the hat, cat in the hat. It's always good, gets kids to buy in. And then Miss Halverson's class is drawing 3D shapes. So once again, you've got kindergartners drawing better than me. So pretty impressive stuff. Jumping over to first grade, Leprechaun Fun. This latest room, if the kick that I got out of this one was if you look at the student in the front with the rainbow on the sheet, look directly behind them. I think that's a student attempting to wink at the camera. That's always a good time. I'm going to make the assumption that they were
Is that
trying
your
to.
kid, Morgan?
No.
Are you sure?
No, well,
It makes sense.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's like you.
If this is exactly what they were doing, but if they were trying to catch the leprechauns, I don't know if you ever see the contraptions the kids come up with. It's pretty funny. They use like little Lucky Charms as leprechaun poop. It's pretty funny. So second grade field trip to the Grow Garden. Again, pretty cool stuff. It's also cool to hear that they're also carrying that learning over to here in the elementary school, working on self-sustainability, growing things on their own. Jumping over to third grade. 8th grade, this was a pretty popular thing. The 8th graders, including community leadership students, have been doing nothing but talk about this. But the 8th graders came to play games, do fun activities with the kids, reading with kindergarten buddies to celebrate Read Across America. Seeing those kids engage with 8th graders, you would think that you never mattered to the kid at all because they step in the room and it's like, I'll do anything this 8th grader tells me to do, which is pretty cool stuff. I hope to continue to do those kinds of things, so credit to the middle school there. Over to the 4th grade. Miss Thompson's class, right over to the right, I'm cleaning up an oil spill in science class. Over to the left again, Read Across America, reading with the first graders, keep working on that literacy. And then in 4th grade, enjoying their field trip to La Crosse Symphony Orchestra, a pretty cool place. They get to see the instruments, learn about music in class, and again, it's that kind of genre of music that sometimes falls to the wayside, so it's cool that they get to engage with that. Jumping over to specials as well, again, music. 3rd grade melody playing, so I would assume that they're monkeying with that with various forms of technology, which is key. There's a lot of that experimentation going on in the elementary school. It's pretty cool to see. It's exciting to see. Jumping to the next, art, kindergarten, 1st grade. So kindergarten, play pets, 1st grade, play fish. Honestly, if I would have looked at these pictures, I would have assumed middle school, high school stuff. Like that's actually pretty impressive, the stuff that they're putting together. So again, exciting. It's fun to see the smiles. It's hands-on. They're having a good time. Art, 2nd, 4th grade. 2nd grade, they're making clay mugs. Same thing goes with this one as well. 3rd grade, clay robots. 4th grade, clay animal bobbleheads. Again, whoever's coming up with these ideas, they're fun ones and they're unique and they're creative, and it's giving these kids the ability to use those parts of the brain that they use well. And then jumping over to art, 4th grade, fantastic collaboration. Nice little pun there. Chalk pastel, 1st grade hot cocoa mugs. Again, it's just really impressive stuff. It's fun to see. It's exciting for the kids. It looks good. Jump to the next, 3rd grade, abstract portraits inspired by artist Sandra. I'm not even going to try that last one. 1st grade, hot cocoa mugs. Again, just that contemporary art, that chalk pastel. It's good for those kids to engage with it. Have a good time, because that is stuff that Greener will be doing with them once they come over to our building. I should say also Miss Van. So art, kindergarten pigeon paintings, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, if you guys remember that. Texture paintings, 3rd grade, abstract portraits, more chalk pastel, and then over the bottom right there, 2nd grade flower paintings, again, inspired by more contemporary artists. Wow. And then, adds this reading, so you got 4th grade students challenging themselves by trying to increase their fluency score every other week. From what I've heard so far with the MTSS meetings that I've been able to be present for, that competition is definitely a motivator, which is really great. Whatever you can do to get kids to read and think it's fun and think it's engaging is incredibly important, because reading, writing skills, all that literacy stuff goes hand in hand, and that stuff we absolutely need greater support in. And then title reading. Below 1st grade reading group, reading aloud, visiting high school student Tori. To the right, the kindergarten group is hardworking, making CBC words with letter tiles. I've referenced this student before, but if you ever get a chance to meet Tori, it's hard to ever spend time with her without a smile on your face. She's fantastic. But again, it's awesome that we're integrating this, and it's awesome that we're being inclusive. And then students of the month. Sorry, Brittany. Yep. So you got Brady LaRue, Aiden, is it Vu?
Boo. Yep.
Boo, okay. Sienna Fournier.
Yep.
Okay. Grace Brady and then Lily Michaels. So, as always, congratulations to our March Student of the Month. It's up and coming leaders. And then Staff of the Month, congratulations to our paraprofessional Sue Weigel for being our March Staff of the Month. So it's important to make sure we recognize our outstanding staff as well. And then from the office, left side, dress appropriately for Minnesota Spring. Print student full names, all outerwear, check lost and found often, dress in layers, print full names inside. You can tell kids a million times, check lost and found, still doesn't seem to ever happen. But the great thing is we can do stuff with those things that are left behind. Dates to remember, no school May 3rd, that's going to be a staff PD day. Early dismissal on May 30th, so that's 12:20. And then as always, please drive safely, especially if parent drop-off pick-up locations, something that the high school students can learn from. All right, so jumping back over the other one. Most of it is basically covered, but I just want to double check that I'm not missing anything. Would you scroll down to preschool? Want to make sure that we're hitting that. Okay, so preschool, 3K took a walking field trip to the public library last month. Bringing books to life was a hit. Again, if you catch on to the theme, literacy is big. You can't move a hippo 3 times in a row to a packed house each time. Again, just having some good times with that. Getting me excited about that reading process. More preschool, pre-K, still talking about flexible like a plum tree, again, not rigid like an oak. And then continue to practice being flexible about how we play, what we make, where we hide, how we treat one another, etc. That stuff is incredibly important. Not everything's going to go our way. And then over to that spring concert. Mr. Kopp brought up, again, it's pretty fun to see. It's pretty exciting to see. The kids have a good time. And again, we got an unbelievable staff and group of students that continue to put these things on for our community. And then the last piece, I should have put it in here, but try to give some shout outs to some high school students. Community leadership, our students in that course continue to serve at a number of different organizations within the community. We have students within the elementary school building. We actually have some students that are teaching some lessons in front of the kids, which is pretty cool. We have students serving over at Traditions of La Crescent, over at Able. They're putting in a lot of good work. It's a lot, but some of those kids are actually going to be hired by these organizations as well, which is one of our goals, because we do have some disadvantaged students in that subset as well. So take a lot of pride in those kids. They do a lot of good work. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Cody.
Okay, any comments or questions? Thank you. We're in the review informational discussion item section, balance sheet.
Just on the balance sheet tonight, we're gonna go over the revised budget, so we'll do those numbers at that time.
Okay.
So if we're looking at the balance sheet here, for the end of March, we go all the way down to the bottom, right there. We can look at our net income lines look really good. In the third column, we had a negative net income, but Brittany, if you could scroll back up to the top for me, we can see that we've got funds up top as cash and assets that'll balance against. Our construction fund shows a negative net income too, because those are reimbursement based. So I've submitted some reimbursements for some dollars back from our bond money. We go back down below again. You can see that we have some more dollars that have hit the bank account, so we're up to 23.56, I think it is, for a fund balance this month.
And we're investing the excess cash.
We are, yep. I actually just had a meeting, let's see, today's Wednesday, it was in last Friday, with David from PMA, and he put out some of our investments out for 2 years, because we can get a better rate of return versus just a 1 year, because we're thinking that, of course, as you know, will go down. So yeah, we are
5% or better?
Yeah. So we're constantly checking that too.
Okay, enrollment.
Just showing you this, what Jacob was talking about is if you look at the 8th grade numbers that will come down into 9th grade for next year, you can look at those 8th grade numbers as opposed to the high school, the 12th grade numbers. That's going to be the net loss from one building, just within that one building. And because we've got 97 leaving kindergarten, what Julie and I have talked about is a net for the entire district. We're probably going to be down around 27 kids or so when we figure in a few that come in middle school in about 6th grade, 6th, 7th grade. Lisa's figuring probably anywhere between 8 and 12 kids will come in. But because we've got 97 that are leaving and we don't know exactly, I'm assuming we're going to get about 60 in for kindergarten. So there's going to be a little net loss there too.
Is there an anticipatory number coming from St. Pete's by chance? Is there a K-8?
Yeah, that's the 8 to 12 that we're
it.
talking about. And they go over and tour, I believe, next week.
Okay.
In the middle school. So Lisa was over there, or maybe it's this week. Yeah, it's this week, because she was over there, I think, on Friday, Monday morning or something.
All right, student behavior report. Saw you had a bus. Thank you. High schoolers are getting a little
squirrely.
And that's a general trend. If you looked at last year, you saw kind of the same thing as well, where your December, January, February, March are low,
They get restless.
and then April sweeps up again. So overall, we're under. Every month is less than what it was last year in terms of behavior in high school. But you see that general dip in the winter months, the weather gets warmer.
Yeah.
So, May will be a little higher again, just because that's what the data shows us. And that's consistent everywhere.
What about bullying? Any bullying
That would be
concerns, major reports?
BIR. Looks like
They were
on
down.
average 1 per month.
Yeah, they were down. Suspensions were up, but bullying reports were down.
I'm just curious, like, if there's a serious bullying issue, like, serious enough that we have concerns about needing to get extra resources for mental health or teacher's aid, something, how does that process start, or what does that look like? This might not even be the right question for this table, and I'm sorry if it isn't, but I'm just concerned
Are
if
you talking about a
there
repeated
isn't something
pattern
being
of-
addressed that we could potentially lose kids or families from this district out of fear of losing their children. And I mean, obviously our goal is to keep everybody healthy and safe, but if staff are not managing or proactively getting on top of that, what is the protocol for you guys to help step in with that?
I think that's a highly age-dependent question.
Okay. If
If
we're looking at middle school,
a
okay.
second grader who's, bullying looks very different in second grade. So how you address it is very different than how you would address it with a 7th grader versus a 10th grader.
Okay.
So I mean, it's vastly different depending on the situation.
Okay.
And that's a piece of where does the restorative practices work that we're starting, because the whole goal of restorative practices is not seeing repeat behavior. So, okay, this has happened. How do we bring in everyone who's involved? How do we work to build that sense of empathy? How do we work to repair the relationships so that this is the end? And we can move forward from here and have a productive, healthy life. And that's really restorative practices at its heart, is meant to not have repeat offenses.
Yeah, it's handled on an individual basis, and I think one of the important things is that people report it right when it happens. The form actually says that it's within 24 hours of it happening, the report should be filled out, and then we handle it in a very timely manner, and the form goes back and gives that feedback after the investigation to the person that filled it out, so that they're included in that. Obviously, we can't include a lot of personally identifiable information, so it's handled on an individual basis, and if there is an ongoing pattern, there is an escalation of severity and how we consequence that.
So that's good in theory. That is not happening in the middle school. And I say that firsthand. It is not happening. And my son will be done going to school here this year because of it. So, I hope we can do better. It's my job to protect him and his mental health because no one else is doing it here. And it has gone on for years. And these kids deserve better. Thank you, Nikki, for bringing it up. I'm sorry. No, thank you.
I can't help but think when we reread our discipline policy multiple times and how these may or may not be done, and that the may not is the biggest part in that policy that is giving the leeway. And I understand that every case is looked on an individual basis, and for every single thing, but I think back to when I was in school and we had a very clear-cut step system. You did this, this is what happened. You did this, this is what happened. You did this, this is what happened. Kids need that. This may or may not, it's too vague. And the policy is vague so that you can add it in your handbook in a very clear-cut way, but that isn't there. And why the policy is stating that and giving you all of these options of things that you can do, but they're not. There's no outline of when this happens next. And then it leads us to the end of the school year and we're in a situation that got out of hand. It got out of control because nothing was done proactively. And that's restorative practice, is being proactive with it.
And parents need to know, like, parents don't know what's happening, and I'm speaking of the middle school. They don't know that kids are at assigned lunches because the kids are throwing food. They don't know that parents don't know what's happening. And I know this because I requested to meet with another parent. I did myself. Met with the parent. She said, I wish I'd known this before. I had no idea. My kid has been sent to detention and no one was there, so he walked around school. So the parents are asking for more discipline. And the parents are asking for to know. Like, they don't know. There is zero communication that happens with parents in the middle school. None. And there's no point in submitting reports that don't get followed up on. And teachers stop submitting them too, because the same kid is back doing the same thing the next day.
I just don't think our communities can handle another suicide or another family loss in our district. And that, it's heartbreaking to me. I don't know that there's a solution for you, April, like tonight, but it breaks my heart.
But I feel like we've been talking about the same thing for 2 years.
And we're driving out a nice kid.
We're driving out a lot of nice kids.
A lot of them, that's why our enrollment is down because of it.
It doesn't make any sense.
Kids are getting hurt in the elementary school. Parents are frustrated.
Something's got to change tomorrow. Theoretically, 2 years ago, but we have to move forward, right? I'm sad and disappointed. He's such a good kid.
Has there been any follow-up on that? Because we had the bullying roundtable two Januaries ago, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. Have we done any? Were you here then? You weren't here yet, were you?
Well, we looked at that. Remember when we met with the teachers? We pulled that up. And, Beth pulled that up and we looked at it.
Have we done any, like, are you looking at any of that, or?
I mean,
not us, but as
we
a
have.
district in general.
I would assume at building levels that there's been things that have been done.
and we went over those one of the meetings. It was, and some of the things that were talked about, and some of the things have been implemented, but it's just, we need boot camp or something. We need overhaul. You know, these small changes take time, and time is precious with these little ones, and it's just not enough.
One of my favorite sayings is, it's easier to build up a child than it is to repair an adult.
And we're trying to meet everybody at their social emotional level, but at the same time, there's other kids that it's hurting their social emotional level because we're being too lenient at the source.
Okay. Any good? Okay, I put this on here. The board was contacted by a student, and it's related to Play Target. So I don't understand how this all works, so I put it on here as discussion because I think this is another opportunity where we could put in writing, maybe in the handbook, like what are the school sponsored or school endorsed activities and clubs, and then what is, and if for the things that aren't, then like, can they still meet in the school? Can they hang things in the school? Can they, so what is current, and then what could we do going forward so that we're not running into the same, because like Play Target is a Minnesota State High School League activity, but it sounds like it's not a school.
It's not school sponsored, okay? They use our name, and I guess when they started the programs, predates me, and so I had to do some history to figure all this out. Some schools do have, and I came from up north, Bemidji had, that was one of their events.
Caledonia, Spring Grove.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
there's
schools.
there's
that have
other
trap shooting down
schools
there.
that have trap shooting as one of their events, and they pay the coach, and they pay for the space where the kids practice and the space where they compete.
Can we do that?
We do not do that.
How come we do that?
It's because we only offer so many sports. We can't offer everything.
So
And so
that's a club sport?
that's a club.
Technically, then?
Yep, it's a club activity.
But they
Or we
participate in
could have
NSHL.
joined a cooperative.
No, I don't know if they participate in SHL or not.
They do.
I think they do.
Do they?
They
Okay.
go to state,
Yeah.
Alexandria.
Okay, but it's a separate club. We've got a bowling team that does something like that too, and a few others that are club activities. What originally, and I've talked to many of you about this, what originally they were asking for is to hang their senior pictures in the hallways. And what I sent back and sent out to you in an update last week, I believe, was that it's fine if their parents and their groups want to do senior pictures. They can do them like anyone else does, but they hang them up where they're competing. So our gymnasts have senior pictures, and they're hanging at PEG, because that's where they compete. They were in the yearbook last year, and I didn't look back to see any further years, but they were in the yearbook last year as under the clubs page. So that's been the process that we've used. That's what we've done for other sports.
So were the students not happy with being able to hang their student or their senior picture at wherever they do at the Rod and Gun Club?
I didn't hear any feedback. I didn't get anything back from that was negative.
Well,
But when he
was
approached me,
concerned he wasn't allowed, the trap team wasn't allowed to have the guns in their trap team photos.
Right.
Oh,
At that point, when he wrote us,
Yeah.
it wasn't even presented as you have to hang them where you compete.
Right. Well, and what led to the email was during passing time, a student came up to me and said, "Our coach told us we can't hang up pictures with our guns in the school. That's using colorful language. Why can't we do that?"
Oh.
And I said, "I don't even know what you're talking about. You're not a school activity as far as I'm aware, so maybe that's why your coach told you you couldn't." And he got mad and walked away. And then you guys got me.
Got it. That's helpful, thank
So
you. And I think if we run that same thing, that same process through all of the sports, like,
and I think April had a great idea. I think it should be in the handbook, but these are the clubs. And actually, I'm working on that with Terry right now, is trying to identify and put together a grid, because we had a wonderful situation. Our robotics team made it to state. So they competed in, they competed in regionals, and then they qualified, and they're going to state. And so the question was brought to me the other day, what does the district pay for if robotics is going to state? Because up until now, district hasn't paid for a lot of it. Julie and I have been looking through, their robotics is very different from other activities, and that we do, we pay for the coach, so that is a school-sponsored activity. But in the past, we haven't paid for any of their entrance fees, or we haven't paid for any of the other things, and it's like a $9,000 entry fee every year for robotics, because they have to, they get all sorts of parts to make the type of robot that they're going to do. So there's some expenses in there, and the advisors have been doing fundraising up until now for a lot of that, and we're trying to figure out what would be realistic and what can the district do to make that more equitable with, other school-sponsored events.
And sorry, before I forget. So right now, they don't pay a fee to do that event. Do, like, each student, how, like, I pay for my kids to do baseball?
Yes, they do.
For which
Yeah,
program?
it's
They
an
do pay for an
Robotics?
activity fee?
For robotics, they do.
The
For
130 or
trap,
whatever
they
it is.
don't.
Is it 130 just like everyone else? Why? Is
Is
every
robotics?
sport
I don't remember what robotics is. I
But
haven't
yes,
really.
they pay a fee.
But it was a 130, right?
I don't
Because
remember
that's
what
an
it
ex,
is,
it's
but-
an activity we pay their coach
They do pay.
Yeah,
with the school. Like I knew that one was
yeah. That's
Just like baseball.
I think, is that one
Yeah.
95? It's like a-
baseball.
I
Any
swear it's
school sponsored
130,
where we
right?
pay the
Yeah.
coach.
And the
Golf is
delineation,
Everything.
the delineation between club and activity
math team.
yeah.
is activity, we pay the coach, which means we hire the coach.
Yeah.
We collect fees from the students.
Yep.
We provide transportation. We have the liability with it. We expect them to follow all of the guidelines as far as their eligibility and all of those items as well.
Okay.
So that's true of all activities. Clubs do not follow that. So there's no fee to be a part of a club. We don't pay the coach of a club.
They just said that is a fee. I was just wondering what.
Robotics is an
Robotics.
activity.
Robotics is an activity. It's Minnesota State High School League activity.
So it'd be like $95 or something, like math masters and activity.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not the
I
same
think it's
activity.
a lower fee.
It's a lower fee.
But their costs
Like that's what it was.
are more, if not like twice as much as it would be to play basketball, right? Because I think
That's
we
what-
pay,
yep.
like if we go to playoffs, does the district or does that come out of boosters? That's
Well,
what I'm
that's what I've got
wondering.
Dana looking into right
Yeah.
now, and what we've done previously. There used to be, when I talked to Dana about this on Monday, there is a fund code that was for state competition that we used to use,
That was pretty high, no?
but she doesn't, there's no money put in it, so I just asked her to go look what the history was and what did we pick up and all of those things, because what we're looking at is probably gonna be transportation and hotel.
Here's one thing. What happened when our math participant went to state? Because that's an activities, which is this classified as an activity.
Do you know
Quinn-
when they went?
Quinn Jorgensen went to math,
This year.
Not Quinn, Cammy.
or Cammy, sorry.
Quinn's
Sister.
great.
They went to state, so what happened there? What did we cover?
Okay.
That would be,
Julie was just saying some of Math Masters could be taken out of the gifted money too.
because that would be the same qualifications if we classify it as an
Yeah.
activity
They're both
versus
activities.
sports.
Yeah.
That is a great
One's
point.
And
a
that's,
lot more
and that's
expensive.
what Dana and I talked about with Terry, is that we're working on putting together a grid where we have all of our activities and our sports, et cetera, listed and, delineated as to what it is, and then what are the entrance fees and all of those. And then go through so that we have things, like we said, transparently written down. So we know this is what we do. And every time we can come back to it and say, this is what we did. But as we're finding in a lot of things, there just isn't a lot of that that's been done. So this was, when this young man brought this up, it was a good learning curve and good experience for me to find out some things too.
It'd be nice to have a one-stop shop for it. All be held in one location.
Background with trap, I did reach out to all the principals in this area that are similar size. So I heard back from Rushford, Dover, Lewiston, Chatfield, Spring Grove, and Mabel Camp. All of them except for Rushford do exactly what we do. where it is a club activity. They have no oversight over the program. There's no activity fees. They don't hire the coach. Rushford used to do that and just made it a school activity this year. So they just interviewed
It's one of
and
the
hired a
fastest
coach.
growing sports.
Right. So they're the one that is just this year stepping in and having that be an official school activity.
Okay.
So, didn't hear back from Caledonia.
So once they're on that list or grid, then that would determine what could go in the yearbook.
Well, we let clubs be in the yearbook, and that was something that I was unaware of. So I know last year, because the young man showed me that their picture was in the yearbook from last year, and I was like, oh, okay.
Like ski and snowboard club
Yeah.
is in the yearbook.
As clubs should be. There's kids that don't have the money to join an activity, whose families don't sign them up for it or can't, and they
And so
should
they're
still
in
be
there.
showcased and highlighted
Yeah.
for their.
And I know you also talked about the photographs, and a couple of the
I did
schools
ask them about the
talking about
photos.
photos too.
The vast majority do not allow guns in any of their pictures.
When were you?
Some allow guns in the pictures as long as they're not being held or that they are in inoperable state. So, for example, who was it? Chatfield said he requires that the brake hinge is open at the weapons.
Plus it looks cool.
So, right. So,
On that note, I do have written down, because it was part of the handbook, we have it listed that new activities will go through the activity advising board. That was in the handbook. I'm trying to find it, but I can't, but I wrote it down from my notes earlier. I don't believe that we have an activity advising board. And if we did, and if TRAP wants to become an activity, what would the process be for them to do that?
Well, there used to be activities advisory that used to meet one Wednesday per month right before the Booster Club. I guess I'm not sure if they're still meeting or not. Uriah had that going last year as well as all the prior people.
I didn't know about that either, so.
Awesome.
So
But it
I
was
will
listed
say
in there.
related to the guns in the photos, we have a weapons policy. There is a clause in the weapons policy that would consider it equipment, not a weapon, in this context. So I don't know why we would not allow them to have their equipment in, I mean, a bat can be a weapon if used in the wrong. We had a football poster with blow torches and beans in it. It's not
point.
football equipment,
Good
be
point.
weapons.
We've had gun raffles as fundraisers.
Oh my lord, yeah.
Yes. So I don't know why, and
I
honestly, I don't think
It
the
is the upper
district has.
Midwest.
Then the boosters and things.
Boosters.
Yeah. Yeah, because I got
But trap teaching
had a
teaches
new
gun
one by a
safety
little lady
and
about that.
how to handle the,
Responsible
and
use of
we're a
firearms.
hunting community.
Which is why I think it maybe should be a school sponsored activity, if we should then be vetting who we have as instructors. If we're, having kids doing this and learning it, then maybe we should.
and there'd be costs associated with that. Every activity operates at a deficit.
I think it should just be thought about. On the note of the guns and the pictures, we've done it in the past. If it's not broke, don't fix it. We don't have any complaints coming forward, and we have a lot of broken things that need to be fixed right now, so I don't think that we need to be focusing on this. And
Well, like I said, they've been in the yearbook. If they want to take their pictures and put them up where they compete, that's
And
what
our-
everyone else does.
our policy allows it, so I don't see any need in micromanaging that any further.
Can somebody reach out to the coach and make sure that he knows that,
I don't even know who the coach is, because it's not a,
well, it'd be,
It's not
okay.
one of us. Yeah, it's not one of our people.
Another reason why it would be beneficial for us to.
They were at activities registration night though,
Oh,
for
were
spring
they?
sports.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Terry would know who it is. But
Well, could you ask Terry to do that? I mean, just need to educate him, let him know that, going out there spreading falsehoods isn't helping anyone or anything.
Correct.
And so, yeah.
I don't remember.
What are you asking?
It's in there. I think it had been in there from previously. I don't think we added it before.
That and ski and snowboard were both Because I remember
can
last
look
year
at my
whenever I
notes.
was putting pictures in the yearbook, looking to see who paid someone.
Yeah.
So I believe both of those were added at the last.
I'll have to take a look at our, I've got my minutes from that one, I'm not sure. I know they're in there, I just don't know if it was in there from before or in there as an addition.
Okay, so we'll have the grid going forward. The grid will help determine what the grid will. There will be a reference in the handbook of what activities and/or clubs are school related allowed for the next school year, and then that can be updated in the handbook.
Yep.
Right. Everyone good with that? Or
And then that, as far as being a club or an activity, does that affect publications? As far as the FCCA, the things being hung up, and are we?
Well, I think FCCLA is in the yearbook too, and
Okay.
yeah. Our students, I mean, that's, I'm not super certain what you're asking.
Just what is the defining factor between posters or advertising or publications? I know there was a section on publications in here, and it specifically talked about activities, so is there a line between activities and clubs?
There is.
Currently, the Lancer Clay Target team uses our logo to advertise for their registration paperwork. And yes, the three coaches are Jeff Jensen, Tim Klug, and Don Bowman. So we've got some work to do, it looks like. And they call themselves Lancer Clay Targets.
But
Because
there's
they are.
they signed back whenever this started, and like I said, this is all history stuff that I've been looking for. Whenever Lancer Clay Target started, they had to get a signed note from whoever was in this chair to say that they could use the Lancer name. And so it's
Mr. Porter.
yeah, and that was when Kevin was here, I didn't know if it was him or before. And so he signed off so that they could use the name. However, it's not a school-sponsored activity.
So that could be a legal issue, right?
Yeah, but every other school is doing the same thing.
No.
Or every other
So that's
club
not a
sport.
liability issue if we're not
No,
sanctioning
it
them?
was some
I don't know what the
requirement.
paperwork is.
Okay.
What's that?
I don't know. He was asking about liability. I don't
Yeah.
know what's in the paperwork
Hmm.
as far
I
as
just
it absolves us
yeah.
of all
No,
I was just
liability.
curious, I don't want to open a can.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen the paperwork either, so I don't know what
Yeah.
it says in there, but I'm sure if all the other schools did it, Minnesota High School League set it up.
I just want to find a way to say yes to all of these, so that's why I was figuring out the clarification between the activities and the clubs. I think there was like Future Christians or something, that there was another one, and that is a club, and
Something about Christian athletes is what Becky told me.
yes,
Fellowship
that
of Christian
that is the
Athletes
one
has
I was
been a long
talking about.
going
So, I mean, if we can hang up posters, we can hang up posters. I want to tell kids yes. I want us to follow our mission and be here for the students, not looking for all of the ways to tell kids no.
Well, they do have a yes. They can hang up at the place that they're competing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's the yes. That was the question that I was asked, is can we have senior posters and can we hang them up? The answer is yes. You can hang them up where you're competing. Just like gymnastics does, except
Soccer, football.
soccer,
Yeah.
football, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
They're out at the
That's
field.
what it
They're-
is.
Yeah, hockey's at the arena.
Hockey's at the arena, yep.
Awesome, all right.
Check that one off.
Greg April had to take a call, so you're taking over.
Okay. This is delivery action, is it?
We're on draft calendar.
We don't need-
We're on 11E.
Let me- Sorry, yeah, 12.
Either way, we're on the draft calendar.
Yeah, the first, we don't need to take any action though on play target, so that's just discussion items, right?
Yeah.
So 20, 25, 26, and 26, 27 discussions on the calendar.
Yep, so you have copies of these.
And none of these are the early starts, right?
No, these are traditional calendars.
Still traditional calendar.
What you'll notice, and there is one thing that we're gonna have to probably do some type of an action or modification on. The calendar we approved at last month's meeting. Stephanie pulled me aside and said there were too many staff workshop days there. And so where the 20th on the 24-25 calendar was normally a staff workshop, or was previously a staff workshop day, that needs to be just a staff day off.
20th of
Which day?
It's Martin Luther King Day in January.
January 20th.
And so in the copies I gave you, you'll see I highlighted
Oh, yeah.
the change on the
You already
yellow where it says
edited it.
MLK
Yeah.
Day,
Okay.
and then I turned it green.
Thank you.
So, yeah, that was just checking to make sure we had that right. And then down on the bottom where it says staff development, there are 9 days there as opposed to 10. We had 10 staff development days this year because we only had 173 student contact days instead of 174.
So that needs to get put under agenda, right?
That would have to be an
Consent
action
agenda?
item.
Or an action item?
So, and I just found out about it a little bit ago, so
That's okay, we're only human.
yeah, it was like, well, we had 10 days last year, why don't we have 10 days this year? Well, because we upped the student contact day.
Thanks for catching it,
Yeah.
Stephanie.
Yeah, I appreciate her catching it.
Yeah.
And then, so similarly, when you look at the 25-26, it's following similar patterns. And then 26 and 27.
So then next month we'll have to put that under the consent agenda?
Yeah.
And for 25-26, December 23rd has a line through it. What does that mean?
Early release.
Oh, early release, okay.
But on the agenda, it says we were gonna talk about Pride Card late start Wednesday early out and number of contact days.
Yep.
April's coming back right now.
Yep. So I can address the Wednesday early out. We really need to keep that for next year.
I would agree. PLC.
It's a PLC time. With the READ Act, we're gonna have to do 144 hours of training, which is a ton of time. And the only way we can insist that staff are at the training is if it's done during the work day. And otherwise we have to pay them for it. And if we pay them for it, they don't have to attend. What's that?
We don't have that in the budget.
No. And the other thing is that it becomes optional. So if we do extra days, it's an option whether they want to come or not.
But if you
And
throw it in there
the
half day.
legislature has said it has to happen.
So if we
So,
put it in on Wednesdays, then it's.
yeah, so that's what we'll be doing. And for next year, we have to do pretty much every staff member.
Well, you state it's optional, it's mandatory for them to continue their licensure, so it's not optional.
Well, there are a whole variety of things they can do to continue their licensure.
Oh.
This is mandated by the READ Act. And so you have one of 3 trainings you can do. It's either core, carry-all, or letters. And everyone that teaches reading, pre-K through 12th grade, will have to do it within the next 2 years. This year, it's mandatory for all of the elementary people, and elementary is defined in the READ Act by district, because some schools have a K-6 program in elementary, some have, like we do, a K-4. Middle school falls in that little different area. And so here, our teachers have decided that middle school wants to be involved with elementary. So they'll be starting and doing the same type of programming that we're doing here with the elementary. And so that'll be it. I think we just finished the paperwork, and I think it's like 47 individuals signed up for letters training for next year. And then there's letters for admin, there's preschool letters, and then we're not sure what the secondary component's gonna look like after that, and all special ed teachers have to be trained this year too. So,
Wasn't it, I guess, Eric, wasn't it more the flex time versus the?
Well, yeah, that's my big problem. The Pride Card
Number of
late
days.
start, you know, it's affecting the entire district. It isn't just affecting the high school kids. And, you know, one question I would have is, how many PSEO kids are part of the, you know, can you be in PSEO and get the Pride Card? So we're rewarding kids who aren't coming in anyways, because they're doing PSEO. I don't like it from a schedule standpoint. The thought that we would have to start school before Memorial Day to get in, I was having trouble wrapping my head around it.
So
Like,
the flex time.
yeah, the flex time.
That's
So
right.
early, because it's optional right now. We're rewarding kids who have Pride Cards, they get to come in late. But by rewarding them, you know, we're rewarding a few, and our mission statement is what's best for our children. And we're penalizing I mean, if we would have had to have started before June, I mean, how many hours is that? I mean, what's the flex time? 25 minutes per day?
31 minutes.
31, thank you, 31. So 31 times 550, so let's say 2
They
hours
have
a
to be
week.
there on Mondays, and
2 hours
if
a
they
week,
don't have it on
and there's
Wednesdays, right?
26
Are you
weeks
trying
of
to figure
school.
out like requirements, or what are you trying
No,
to
I just,
How many
that's
days are we
time
losing
that
because of flex?
we're we're losing time because we're making flex time optional.
Well, here, let me give you some numbers.
Please do.
So MDE requirements, grades 1 through 11 is 165 days, and then there's hours based on grade. So if you have full day kindergarten, then you need to hit 850 hours. If you are grades 1 through 6, it's 935 hours. 7th grade through 12th grade, you need 1,020 hours. So you need a minimum of 165 days and the hours for the grade.
Okay.
Okay. So that only counts instructional hours. So recess, lunch, snack, nap time, optional remediation times, those do not count. Okay. So
Flex
contractually,
doesn't count then, is what you're saying?
if it's an optional time, that would not count.
Okay.
So if it's required remediation, then it counts. So that's why the Mondays count. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday do not.
What happens, why is Monday different?
Because everyone has to be there Monday. So then it's a required time period for their day.
Makes perfect sense, Jacob.
So,
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well,
so
you can stop. I'm against it.
Why is Mondays required but not the rest?
So Monday we do something called Check and Connect. So every student has to be present on Monday. They check in with their assigned teacher. And then during that time they talk about progress, whether that's academic or otherwise. It gives them another point of contact for their week. If they have a Pride Card, then they aren't needed in any of their classes. Then they are exempt for Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. If they do not have a Pride Card, or they are required to be in one of their classes, maybe they missed a test or something else, then they would attend on those other days.
Other than under the Pride Card information, was Flex clearly laid out like that in the handbook
I don't know if it is or not.
and described to people? I know that there was some freshman students who weren't quite understanding how Flex works, some freshman teachers, new teachers, and parents that weren't clear on how that all worked.
And Flex is something that our staff is actively working on revising to make it more effective and more clear.
I think if that time is used for something beneficial, I think it's fine. But yeah, like you were saying, it's just.
If it affects the schedule, it's.
If we have to change our start,
Well, it doesn't affect the schedule. Our teachers are contracted for 185 days. With the current schedule that we ran this year, with the early releases on Wednesday, and the optional flexes on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, our high school hits their required number of days and minutes at 167 days.
And what was the requirement again, pardon me?
165 days was the
Oh,
minimum.
okay, minimum is one, okay.
Our teacher contract is 185
So they went over by 22
days.
days?
What's it?
Am I not mathing?
No.
Our
So-
total days are 185 according to the calendar in front of us that she handed
Yes.
out.
And
Pardon
we hit the
me.
minimum at
Pardon me,
167.
yes, I misunderstood,
so
sorry.
basically flex time costs us 2 days a year.
93 minutes a week is what it's costing us. if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
So that's what we're losing. So 93, and how many weeks in a school year? 25?
36.
Yeah.
36 times 36. So that's 3,348 minutes that is, in my mind, getting taken away.
Eric, if our test scores were like top notch, I would say that we could fight this, but our test scores are not. So I'm not going to argue the amount of time that the kids are in the building and coming to school because they need to be here.
So then you and I are on the same side.
On the same page. He wants to have flex time.
What we have here is a
We need
failure
get
to
our kids
communicate.
School.
He wants them doing a class.
Well, I want
and
it to
it's
count.
very big.
If they're in the building, I want it to count. And it's, yep, you can go, but you don't have to go. Oh, and by the way, it's Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I don't mean to make fun of you. I'm not trying to make fun of you here, but yeah, it's just, so I'm against it. But I'm
It's
1 of 7.
confusing.
I'll stop talking now.
Brittany has
I
something
don't
that
know
needed
how
to-
like of importance it is, but I will just note that whenever I meet with yearbook kids, we come in at 7:30 and we meet through Flex, and we're always like trying to build that schedule. Was like, okay, when is ski snowboard meeting? Okay, the opposite week that I'm meeting yearbook kids during Flex. Student council, they all use that time, all of those groups, and especially at the middle school level, where students aren't driving during that advisory time. That's whenever I meet with the students. The middle school yearbook, especially because they don't drive, is during that time. So I will just say that as a standpoint from there.
Sure. So I think
Utilize the word.
maybe I'm the problem. I'm communicating wrong. I want it to be compulsory so that it counts. So the kids are in the building.
Call it study
More.
hall or call it
And
resource
our,
time.
this
The
is something
kids'
our staff
resource
frequently
hour.
talks about. All the Pride Card stuff is run through PBIS. They review the requirements, they set the expectations.
Yeah.
That's a group of our teachers. It's reviewed by our building leadership team, which is an additional group of teachers.
Yeah.
We devote staff meeting time to talking about what should Flex look like, what's working, what isn't. This is coming directly from teachers. Student advisory weighs in on Pride Cards.
But it's
and
affecting the schedule.
it's
And that's
not-
our area.
We could hit the minimum in 167 days.
Okay. Well, I'll just agree to disagree with
We
you.
don't want them here just the minimum. Why
Yeah.
couldn't they be required to be here? But if they have a Pride card, they could sit in Commons and listen to music and play games.
But that
That's
wouldn't
something
count.
we talked about.
It would count. They would be required to be in the
Well, it would
building,
count.
but they could
Yeah.
have
Oh,
free
great.
time during that.
Even better.
And we've talked about that as a staff. That's not what staff has advocated for. The big
But I'm also
hang-ups
hearing
there-
that we're having a lot of kids late to their first hour that have that Pride card because of Flex. My child is one of them. So she
Periodically.
had to be in the building for that first hour and could play games or sit on her phone or talk to her friend. She would get to that class, ideally, on time.
But the issue that staff has brought up is then how do we supervise having 150 kids in the cafeteria?
All over the building.
And how do you
So maybe some go to the
keep
gym.
track?
So why can't it be Monday every day? So you said what happens on Monday? It's a touch-in, everybody.
Yep, we call it check and connect.
So why can't that be Monday through Friday?
Because ideally the other days, so my science teacher, right, I'm a 10th grade student. I need help in science.
Yeah.
Monday I can't go to my science teacher because I'm checking up my Flex advisor.
Okay.
Tuesday I want to go to my science teacher so I can get small group help.
Okay.
If there's 25 kids in that room, I can't get small group help. And that's part of why having the Pride Card students being exempt now takes 100 plus students out of the building.
So the kids can
now
get extra
The
help.
kids can get small group intervention.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if I'm a teacher and there's 25 kids in my room, and half of them have nothing to do, so they're being social,
Right.
how can I get to the other ones that actually need my help and assistance?
But if it's a free flow, so I can go see my English teacher on Tuesday because I'm having issues. Johnny can go to his social studies teacher. I mean, if there's maybe it would, I don't know. I'm still,
That's what we do, yeah.
okay. But I want it to count.
Would we allow the Pride Card people to not come in?
Cody, not to throw you under the bus here, but as a staff, like, what are you hearing as far as flex time, resource time, whatever you guys call that, as far as a need? Are you seeing it utilized correctly, or
it's incredibly variable, and I think that's why this flex group is meeting. It's a pretty small group, because it's extra time. But one of the things we're focused on is we need to reaffirm what the purpose of flex is, and that's really important. I think, just out of respect to, he inherited this program. It's not something we chose, so I just want to keep that in mind. But the purpose of flex, like, I will be one of the first people to say Check and Connect is incredibly valuable, because I spend a lot of time with the kids that aren't showing up to school and the kids that are not doing well. They get so much one-on-one time. Is it comprehensively consistent? No, and that's one of the things we are discussing is it needs to be, and that's not on the kids. So that Monday, that has to be consistent.
Yeah.
But then if we do end up with, because kids are kids, they want to select teachers they have great relationships with, you're going to get some teachers that get 50 kids. I can't give any support because I'm going to be having to deal with all of these other behaviors, which, again, you can find ways to manage it, but with supervision already being low, we're struggling with that too. Who's going to take the gym, who's going to take commons and be able to manage 50 to 60 kids at one time and make sure that they are doing things they should be doing. But then we're still trying to give those kids that intensive tier 1, tier 2 support, but then some of those kids we're trying to teeter into that tier 3 too. What can we give hyper-intensive support to? Who can we give hyper-intensive support to? Lancer Locker, we're devoting time to that too. Kids come in during that time. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's okay to ask questions, that we should have conversations about this. One of the things I will say, if they're willing to come in and talk about it or share some things with you, the math department, they have a peer tutoring session that is seamless. It's ideal, because these kids get one-to-one support from teachers, but it also gives other students opportunities to tutor.
How do kids get into
So-
that? How do families find out about that?
They find out through us. So if this is stuff you guys want to know more about, maybe we can discuss maybe adding something about flex into.
I had a child that struggled in
newsletter,
math
but-
severely, went and saw you and did math with you consistently, had to go online, and I never heard about this until right now.
And students are very aware of the peer tutoring.
Yeah. You might not be,
Yeah.
they might be filtering that.
But I could have made her go if I would have known it.
And that's something we can
And she did
discuss.
periodically go.
And so you guys have a
But maybe I
current
wouldn't have
group
let her go
working on
online
flex
Right.
and what
if I
that
knew
looks
that
like.
was an option.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of
In our
deferring opinions, but the one thing we've centered on is we need to reaffirm the purpose.
That's a good
Because
idea.
if it's purposeless, it's purposeless.
Yeah.
So
Right.
again, that is something we're doing. But we gotta understand that it's quite the task, especially when a lot of people are overtasked right now.
Right.
So we're dedicating time to it. Will it be
Right.
solved overnight? Probably not. But it is definitely something we're looking at diligently, because we've asked the same questions. If this time does not count, why are we doing it, or what are we doing it with or for? But this is one of the best ways we can provide that intensive enrichment and that content support while allowing time for those clubs, things like that as well.
And Cody said in the staff meetings, I mean, I don't remember if it was our December or January meeting, but I came flat out and said flex needs to get better. Because it's
Yeah.
72 hours of our school year,
Yeah.
And having
and
those,
it is not working.
bringing some of the information from those would be great. I'd love to hear that here because, I mean, I've sent you stuff about what could be done in flex in the past, but,
Yeah.
you know,
And if I may, I
utilize
think
that time better.
one of the things that's affecting the buy-in from the staff too is some of them don't see the purpose. So one of the things we're hoping to do is by redefining that purpose, we can have some staff-to-staff accountability, because there are some staff that are like, we want admin to enforce this to the law and to the letter. Well, when things have been the way they have been for a long time, and then we've got incoming admin, that could lead to some pretty intense adversarial relationships. So we're
And
trying to deal with this amongst ourselves before we get to that point.
Yeah.
Some people just seek to misunderstand also.
Some people just aren't going to agree.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
We
curious,
did
Mindy, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Is there a time frame of when, like, flex oversight or revamping is looking to be done, that we would need to look at calendar execution for the next few years?
I think we were just talking about it.
I think, didn't we, or well, you guys at the last meeting agree to in early, like, we would be approving next, not this following school year, the next school
Well,
calendar.
you've got
Yeah,
the
didn't we just
summer
approve
years.
3
We
years?
approved,
No,
haven't
we
approved them
approved
yet,
Oh,
but
We haven't approved it.
we only
Yeah.
approved them with a final
Just the-
approval,
2024.
at least.
Right.
And so many
You've
months in
got-
advance.
You've got in front of you right now
This one's been approved.
proposed for 25, 26, and 26, 27,
Okay.
following the traditional calendar. The reason we were looking at going to the early start, you know, the before Labor Day start was for kids and sports and, you know, there were a whole bunch of other things ending, you know, and spring break and getting first semester done before Christmas and, you know, there were a lot of different things that it went over like a lead balloon.
Change. Yeah.
Can I bring us
Yeah.
back to Wednesdays? I know for next year, we've confirmed the calendar, we have to get the
Yeah.
REDAC thing in there and everything. Is there a possibility of, before approving the next two, revamping the Wednesday early release? I would also like to hear what Cody has to say, and the teachers have to say about that, and just inputting that. I know they do a lot of training during that time, but most people that have training to do in their job have to do it on their own time, not during their regular scheduled time, so.
So there's a lot to unpack there as well. So what is your primary question, or what do you want to know
How
specifically?
do the teachers feel about not doing Wednesday early release anymore?
I think a number of our staff find that time super valuable because that's our PLC time,
And what does PLC stand for?
professional learning community, or committee, whatever you want to call it. Again, some people use it differently. That will always be true. But those that use it the way they should, which I genuinely believe is the vast majority of our staff, we're looking at student data, we're looking at student assessment. Literally just, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, my PLC actually brought up artifacts of student writing to address the fact that we are seeing literacy issues. We are seeing kids performing below their developmental level. And then we're discussing what we can do to help support that. And then we're trying to spread that amongst the other departments to talk about those things. It's also time that we have where, again, and I know people do stuff outside of work, but I don't think it's a secret that if teachers got paid overtime, schools would go bankrupt in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us put in
100%.
12 to 15-hour days a day. And I think when we consider just applying more time outside, you're just applying more straws. And with the national retention crisis the way it already is, we could be barking up the wrong tree. I think you will find that if we have conversations with staff, we're open to a lot of things. But from my understanding, also as a union rep, that Wednesday is going to be one that they're going to want to protect.
Yeah.
Because again, it's structured time, they're being paid for it, and many times those actually go well beyond the actual contract time. It's supposed to get done at 3:30, a number of people stay well past that. Again, what it's used for,
How many other districts do something like that?
good question. That I don't know.
Does any-
Part of QComp as well. If we didn't do that, we would still have to do 100 minutes a month of professional learning community meetings. So we're beyond that by a bit, having 70 times 2 or 3, so that gets us 140 to 210 minutes. So we're exceeding that, and the time is absolutely valuable from the elementary perspective. Those are grade level professional learning committee meetings with integrated special education and interventionists. So they're talking across grade levels and collaborating together, talking about improving instruction, talking about responding to data, and working through, improving our systems. Exactly the things you're talking about. How do we increase test scores? We increase teacher effectiveness and curriculum effectiveness, and that's what's happening at those Wednesday times.
And I think that built-in collaboration is huge from multiple standpoints. I mean, that's our main vehicle for improvement, because you typically don't improve just by sitting by yourself in your room. You improve by talking things through, by getting other perspectives, by having other people look at what you're doing and, provide feedback on that. The other piece is from a retention and hiring standpoint. The fact that we have that built in every single week is a huge carrot that we put on there. Because some districts do
So
that.
we are one of the only ones that do it? Is that what you're saying?
I would say it's probably 50-50.
You have data?
Yes, as an example, there are other districts that choose to do it once a month and they take a full half day off. So like Rushford Peterson, for example, they have 1 half day a month. There are other schools across the river in Wisconsin that have also adopted this process, but they'll do like late starts.
Late start,
Like,
yeah.
so once a month or every week, Wednesdays, they'll start at 9:30.
Ours is really, well,
Winona did the half.
we're in Holman.
Sure.
Is 12:35 on what, like today
Yeah.
was 12 early release, so we have that once a month. I don't know
Yeah.
how effective that is, because I
Mhm.
don't join those, but like today we had, BEI training. So that's what we did as support staff for early release.
The
So important.
routine of having it weekly, the routine of having it weekly, to me, is more effective than if we're gonna do a half day once a month.
And for
Which back when
scheduling,
it was-
busing, parents.
Which back
daycare.
when the board was considering which way to go with it, that's exactly the rationale for it. I don't remember if you were on the
Oh,
board,
yeah.
were you? Yeah?
How long is
Some of the biggest bullets shot at me were over that.
Yeah.
So I would really hate to see us.
2007.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It would have been
We gotta keep
2014, I believe.
No.
14,
Early
15.
out.
Yeah,
I know.
because I had to change, there was one year that preschool stayed late. It's a mess.
And I'll send an email out to the other HVET superintendents in the area to find out exactly who's doing what.
Are the other schools part of QCOM?
Some of them are, some of them aren't. And I know in previous districts, it's been set up to do too.
What percentage of our staff is staying and utilizing that time for?
100%.
100% are required.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're required.
Mhm.
Whether they go out of the classroom, it's
Oh, so whether or not they're joining the
they're required to be there. right?
groups?
No,
No, they're
everyone
all
is a part
required
of the
to
group.
be in the group.
They also
That's
take
required.
attendance,
Yep.
each group. They are required to take attendance on the agendas that they're required to keep as well.
And that was one of the things we covered at the at the oversight meeting and the staff development meeting earlier this month. Is I have all the attendance sheets of who's in which group and how many days they attend and all of those things. So it's all tracked fairly.
Once a month, the staff meetings as well, which is also training.
What I can definitely say, and again, I hope, I wouldn't just give you lip service. This has been held highly accountable. Coaches have been told, you have to be there during PLC. You may not leave until after. And that's been told to us directly, and the union is actually involved as well. I've had conversations with specific people about this as well. Because again, this is QComp, there are dollars tied to this. If you're not adhering to it, we don't get those dollars. So,
And I would have to just say, I don't even think that calling it just training really captures the essence of what the work is that's done there. It really truly is, how do we improve our practice and our craft?
Yeah.
That's really what
I would think that's a really great relationship builder and team bonding and things. Team bonding, maybe not the right word, but the essence is there.
I would love to see more cross-building contamination, for lack of a better term, but social study teachers in middle school and elementary school. Hey, how are you describing, mitosis? I never thought of using that, It just,
Or
I mean-
just like sports. So like Terry is coming down to youth level to help our coaches at the youth level build the fundamentals so that when they get to that high school level, they come in and know that 5 red means this. Where,
Omaha.
football, yes,
Yeah.
that means that. So kind of building those skills from there.
our peer coaching program is kind of become that in a manner, where our peer coaches, when we're performing what most people see as evaluations, but it's sessions where we're critiquing one another and trying to build each other's practices, we're asking those questions. And we're seeing it across disciplines, so I can ask, do your kids understand what a thesis is? Or what are they struggling with in the classroom right now? the last MTSS meeting I was at, it's like our high schoolers are dealing with the same issues as the elementary school kids. So what can we do to try to divide that or spread that, lessen that gap? So again, these conversations are happening. Do we make them happen more common? Yeah, it just takes a lot of time and resources.
Good, good
A
information.
lot of these
Thank you.
things are actively being reworked as well. I mean, when we talk about PLCs and the structure within PLCs and what's the goal and the purpose there. When we talk about peer coaches, that was a complete reboot for this school year. Because we watched what happened last year, it wasn't as effective as it could be. Myself and the peer coaches rewrote everything, and it's completely new. When we talk about Flex, watched it for a while, it isn't as effective as it could be, it's being completely redone. I mean, all these things are stuff that is happening at the building level, it should be happening at the building level, as far as trying to make sure that it is as effective and efficient as it could be and should be.
Like a duck on the pond, above the water, not a lot of action.
Right.
Underneath,
And it takes a lot of time to get that kind of the way that it should be. And sometimes you try something and it falls flat, so to speak.
If you have a chance, I would say once you guys are done with the Flex rework, maybe update the board, that'd be great.
Okay.
Even just giving us like intermittent updates.
Yeah.
Not maybe when you're
Keep us-
done, just
Clearly
in
our
case there's
kids
some
bring
thoughts
some
on
of
there.
that.
Yeah.
I just want to thank everybody for the discussion tonight. I think this has been very good. So thank you. And again, I promise you I wasn't trying to
No, I know.
be a personal attack or anything like that.
And with the Flex piece, I mean, if we wanted to go to the bare minimum of 165 days, then yes, Flex would make us add 2 days to our schedule. Unless we're interested in doing the bare minimum, it does not impact the number of student days or the rest of our calendar or anything else.
And thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, I mean, we have, because I was concerned when it came up, like, is Flex actually causing us to have to go? Because
That's what I thought.
if it was, then my message to staff is Flex is changing, here's how. When I sat down, looked at state statute, ran all the numbers, I can send you the full email if you really want to see the full details of numbers.
I believe
You know, it came out that, okay, we have 185 days for teachers. State requires 165 student contact days. With Flex, we need 167 to get our high school to our minutes.
Okay.
If we toss in time for snow days and stuff like that, maybe we'd have to go 170.
Right.
But
Thanks for
Oh, yeah.
pulling numbers. I
Thank
geek out on that and I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on.
Next
to-
time lead with that, but yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Moving on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Nope, she got it. Nope, she got it.
Any
Danielle had it.
Any donations?
I'd love to see Lisa
Very good.
Trotter coming back.
Yeah.
She
I don't
is
think I
been
saw
a
any.
Rock star.
Donations?
Yeah.
No.
Are we losing Amy to another employer or?
Yes.
Spectrum. Oh.
Okay,
HVAC.
discussion, no discussion, then
I have a discussion on the policy second, yeah.
I never got feedback to finish them and put them in their form to the second reading, so I think they should probably come back next month.
Right, okay. So do we need to vote down the move to approve, to move those to a different one, or can we amend that motion with,
What?
it was just
to
a
approve
reading.
without the policies?
Can I just redact my
by
motion?
Roberts, you would have to.
If we had a
But-
second?
Isn't just a reading though, because we're not approving them, we're just
Yeah.
approving that we're
The
reading.
second reading is
Is
final.
approval? Oh, okay, I thought it was the.
Oh, that should have been an
Oh, I
action.
thought it was a third. No?
Okay.
So,
By Robert's
By
rules.
Roberts,
Yeah.
you would have
Robert's
to
rules,
vote
yeah.
down the order, have a new order to remove
Yeah.
those, or a new motion to remove those from the consent agenda.
Got
And
it.
then you can have a third motion to approve the consent agenda, the amendment.
Or you could vote it down.
What's that?
Or you could vote down the first one.
Just vote it down.
Yeah.
So we have,
yeah,
So,
so the motion on the table right now
Vote to approve.
is to approve the
Yeah.
consent agenda as written. So what the group would do is say no,
Favor say aye.
you know. all vote no for that, then redo a motion that says we are looking to pull
Yeah.
12I from 13I, yeah, I didn't write down the number. 13I from the consent agenda and
Sorry.
vote that in, and then the third motion would be that you
Alright,
approve
so
the consent agenda.
the motion is to approve the consent agenda. All the favors say aye. Those opposed, say aye.
Aye.
Motion fails.
Motion to approve A through H in consent agenda to move I, table it till next
Second.
board meeting.
Second. Any discussions on that? Motion to approve everything except for I. No discussions? All those in favor of motion to approve everything except for I, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved.
Julie, you want me to just jump right to the presentation?
I would love you to, yes, I am ready.
Poor thing.
Oh, nice.
Short and sweet. So our enrollment right now, or what our enrollment for our adopted budget was around 1,000. I have that opposite. Our adopted budget was around 1,032. Our revised budget is around 1,000. I apologize. So our adopted, we had enrollment at 1,032, and now it's closer to 1,000. So that's what I did the revised budget on. Next page. And that will affect, of course, our revenues. So we're going to have about a $39,000 increase in our general ed aid. That's in the revised budget. And our special education aid, which is part of that gen ed aid, is $410,000. So there's parts of it that decrease. That's why there's a difference. Go ahead. For our tax revenue, changes are going to be about a $373,000 decrease. This is going to have some prior year adjustments in it, and also has to do with the previous screen. Some of the coding was an aid versus levy, and when I reran the reports for the revised budget, those showed up differently, so I recoded those in revised. So you can see one's a decrease and one's an increase. So that's why that difference is there. But there is some prior year adjustments in the tax revenue too that are going to affect it. For our local revenue, it's about a $396,000 increase. And of course, as we know, most of that increase is due to interest revenue. We do have a few more donations. Most of it is the interest revenue from this year. Our increases in expenses for our revised. We have wage increases for our salary. We know that our adopted budget was done before negotiations were settled, so we did know this was happening. We did put most of the percentage on the first year and none on the second year, so we knew we were going to be first year heavy, and that is seen right here. Our benefits then, of course, increased to $82,000. Purchase services went up to the revised budget about $155,000. That's some sped service costs that are higher, some different tech needs that we have with the change in our tech the way we're doing our tech during the middle of the year. We switched to the services of Edmund West. Thank you. I forgot it's the Edmund West. And then in some building services costs went up too. Next page. Our supplies and equipment up about $85,000. That's mostly in instructional software. There is some equipment in there too that went up. So our overall revised budget, if you look kind of the first down third of the page at the, go down to the total general fund on the right side. So you can see there that we're at a negative $276,663. Our net decrease above shows the 628, but that's because we're transferring money into some assigned funds Because we need to be prepared in the next few years to have dollars put away so that we don't all of a sudden get surprised with costs. And so that is one thing that I did, was to put some money in assigned funds, so we are saving for those things that we need. So then, you can actually come down after the assigned funds are in and see that our real decrease is at 276. We're gonna fall a little short, or we're gonna use a little bit more money up in our food service. That's all right, because we have a very healthy fund balance. We did buy some equipment here. Terry found some that we needed, so we did buy some equipment. You can go to the next slide, please. Community services, we're looking to have a little bit of a surplus there for the year. Construction fund, we'll have stuff going all the way through June, so that is a real estimate on the construction fund on what we'll actually have in there at the end of the year. And then debt service, we're coming out where we're going to use about $5,400 of the money that we had in to start the year, but again, that's in and out from year to year, so that's not a concern on that one. And then the OPEB is an in and out too. So the bottom line is about $335,000 that we're going to spend more for the year. But the big picture that we want to make sure we look at, if you go back a slide, is the 276. That's not sustainable. And so that's the reason that we are making some of the decisions that we are in FY25, is because we need to make sure that the students we have, of course, are taken care of, but as students decline, there are things that can change. And then as our building, things in our building get done that are new too, some of those other costs are going to go down a little bit too, that maybe we don't have to service as much.
Right.
So we're looking at all of those areas. Where can we make sure that we're spending the correct amount of money in, because we can't have a adopted budget for FY25 that shows that.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Any questions?
You dropped it down to 1,000. We were looking down like more 900 something.
Correct. And I did notice that on the report today for the board. It was done at 1,000 at the point that I did this revised budget though, so.
Motion to approve. Pardon me, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say, so if you start hearing, well, this person's retiring or and we're not rehiring, just know that that's part of what the plan is, to be able to make those adjustments and right size to what our student numbers are.
And we all had a conversation about that. The whole admin team had a conversation what the needs of the elementary are, the high school are, and the middle school. So.
Well, 27 students just in one building is a big drop.
Yeah.
The 27 is district-wide.
Pardon me?
The 27 is district-wide.
Oh,
High school
pardon
is
me.
22, give or take.
Got it.
Still
Okay.
22 is a big drop.
That is still
It is.
That's one
that's
whole
a big
class.
deal.
It is.
That's
One
a salary.
section per class. Yep.
And just so you know, I talked about, I just want to make sure that one thing is, like in the high school, some of the savings will be maybe in overloads. We're not so much going to lose any staff, but maybe we're going to be able to save in the overloads that we are paying. So it doesn't always mean staff reductions. I don't want that to be a theme that's coming out of here. It means we're looking at every area that we can save. So.
Well, that should help increase the level of education as well, or the instructional, less stress.
Yeah.
You can only run faster for so long.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Motion to
passes.
adjourn. I'll second that as well.
You second that?
I do it as well as Wade.
Oh, he gets excited, I know.